All right. Hello, everyone out there. It is putting period 4 in context, APUSH here today. Okay, glad to see lots of people on here. So we'll be taking a look at all these things. I put a lot of resources on here today. So if you see the resources below here, we actually have a little worksheet. Okay, a little worksheet that goes along with it there, and we're going to be going over some terms, a little bit of multiple choice questions. We have some sample short answer questions and some space there if you want to take some notes as well here as we're going through. And so that's a little bit. Let me share the screen with you. Okay. Okay. And hopefully, all right. Hopefully everyone can see it okay. Can everyone see me okay here? Let's go into, all right. So hopefully everyone can see okay what we're doing here. Okay. I don't know why I went to that. Okay. Okay, when I went to share here, I'm not quite sure why it was not full there. Let me stop that and get started again there. Sorry about that. I don't know why it did that. Let me go back to share screen there. Share my entire screen. There we go. Sorry about that. And now should be good. So now as I'm going through here, okay. All right. So starting off with a little bit of music here, a little bit from Ben Sounds here, just to kind of get us ready here. Okay. All right. So period 4 in context here. Can everyone see everything okay? I am having some problems seeing things. I don't know why. Okay, Amanda, you still there? I don't know what I'm doing here. This has always been okay there, and now all of a sudden I just keep seeing the original. So I don't know if this is a change here or what, but for some reason I am not actually seeing my slides when I say to share it. Let's try that again. All right. All right, when I click on here, can you see it? Okay. Yes, you can see it. So right now when I'm on there, okay, like right now it says, make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram there at Fiveable. Can everybody see that okay? Okay, what Fiveable is, okay, are you still able to see it? Yep, okay. I don't know why it's, I don't know, it's a little bit different than it has been there. Sorry about that. So it's kind of throwing me off a little bit. All right, let's continue on here. What Fiveable is it is really like Twitch, which is a gamer's thing. You know, a lot of, you can see a whole bunch of different ways to do things and maneuvers and different things like that. And when Fiveable was developed, it was kind of to do the same thing with teaching there. So, you know, get that help that was needed online and quickly and make it available. Okay, this is who I am here. Okay, I'm Patrick DiFilippo. I'm in my 20th year of teaching at Oak Lawn Community High School. It is a southwest suburb of Chicago. I teach students with a variety of backgrounds here. I'm in my 17th year either teaching APUSH or Honors U.S. History. I have a bachelor's from Western Illinois University. I majored in history with a minor in English, so that definitely helps for this course here. And Benedictine University, I got a master's of arts in education And then from Governor States, a Master's of Arts in Educational Administration, and strong focus on high standards writing and content in my classroom here. I'm going to keep checking on you here because I have to go back and forth here. Again, I'm not sure why it's not showing like it normally is for me here. Okay, small world there, yes. All right, very good. So again, when I go back here, hopefully everybody can see it here. Here's what is in our stream today. So if I don't answer you right away there, I apologize here because I'm going to have to go back and forth here. What is contextualization? We're going to talk about that. How do I get that contextualization point? That is a difficult one. Lots of people talk about it. It's one of those ones that, you know, people seem to really have problems getting. A lot of times they're on the DBQ and the LEQ. A quick review of period 3, a revolution of 1800, the War of 1812, Age of Jackson, market revolution, and reform movements here. So we're going to be covering a lot here. So let's take a look at it here. What is contextualization in your own words here? I want to hear what it is in your own words. So what is contextualization? What is contextualization in your own words? Okay, Amelia, very nice. Okay. What else do we have there? Okay. Okay, Hannah, does involve some background information, definitely. Okay, anybody else there? What is contextualization? We're going to be going into all of these things here. So let's take a look at this one here. This is a relatively common one here on Andrew Jackson here. You'll see this. I've seen it on DBQs in the past. I've seen it on short answer questions in the past. Let's kind of put some of this to use here. What is this picture referring to here? Okay. Dominique, very good. King Jackson here. Zoe, okay. Andrew being a tyrant, very good. Andrew Jackson, yep, thanks for specifying there, very good. Okay. Right now, do you see the slides, by the way, right now, or are you just seeing me right now? His extensive use of veto power, very nice. Okay, we're going to be taking a look at that. No slides, okay. Why is that? Okay. Okay, now do you see the slides there? When you're seeing the slides there, let me stop sharing. Let me try this again. I apologize. Now you're just seeing me, right? My big head there, and hopefully, okay. Hello. All right, you're just seeing me right now. Let me try this again. I'm not quite sure what is going on there with that. Toggle full screen here. All right. Let me try. Okay, so I'm going to try to share this again here. All right, and then application windows, let me try that again here. So this is what I was trying here, and now I'm sorry. Okay, now we're good. I'm not sure what exactly happened the first time I tried this here. It wasn't an option. Now you are seeing it, right? And now I can make this into a full size, I believe now, and it should make it a little bit better. All right, cool. Everything good there now? Now everybody sees the slides, right? Okay, sorry about that. I clicked on it, and I'm not sure exactly what happened there. So I apologize. That's a bad way to get started there. I apologize there. And Zoe, you can't hear anything? Can everybody else hear me? Okay. All right. So Zoe, you might want to try refreshing. That might work. Making sure. Um, not quite sure why. Okay, probably just your phone. Okay. All right. Hopefully everybody um, should give the option to unmute. That could be possibly too, right? Okay, thank you. See, everybody's very helpful there with that. Okay, so now you can see my slides. We're good now. And I'm not sure what was going on there, but it was not giving me the option that I thought here. All right, let's go back to where you were here. Okay, very nice here. I'm going to scroll through these here. All right. Some of you talked about what is it referring to? Andrew being a tyrant, King Jackson, his extensive use of the veto. Yeah. All right. You're right on with all of these here. Let's take a look here at some of the things that came up here. So, first of all, not that long in history since we split from a strong central government, right? So, not that long since then. Country is still relatively young, right? Still divided at times, sometimes by region. It's not as bad. We're coming off of, we're going to explain this, the era of good feelings and things. Stepping on the Constitution, you see him on the Constitution, right? So stepping on the Constitution is showing that he doesn't have a lot of regard for the Constitution. You could also refer to his war with the bank there, with the Bank of the U.S. So we're going to be taking a look at that, what he thinks of that. And then Nicholas Biddle and his bank war, and also some of the situations he gets involved with John Marshall and the Supreme Court. So we have a lot here so far. So let's continue on here. Okay. All right. So what is contextualization? Okay, what is it? Okay, it is taking a look at, connects the events, the processes of specific circumstances of time and place, as well as broader regional, national, and global processes. Connecting historical events to the bigger picture, what else was happening at the same time in different places, how it fits in, the 5 W's there, and the H, who, what, where, when, why, and how. So I have a background as the journalism coach here at Oak Lawn. And so the who, what, when, where, why, how, very important to me here. So who, what, when, where, how, very important. All right, let's go into some more details here. All right. Now, you may have noticed that there are two separate things here, that there is the idea of historical context versus contextualization. Okay. It is on a surface level, it's essentially the same thing. Okay. So differences in contextualization refers to putting the entire, so differences in contextualization, we are putting an entire essay, whether it is the DBQ or the LEQ, and we're putting that whole thing into a broad context. We're making these links, all of those types of things. All right. Now, versus historical context, that is more of like a document, a reading, more for the multiple choice. So has everybody heard of HIPPO sometime, or HIP? Okay. All right. So the first thing is historical context. So you get a document, you talk about what is immediately going on around that time, or a little bit before, a little bit after. So there are some similarities here. So we're going to go into this with a lot more detail here. Okay. So here we go here. So here we're going to get into a lot of detail. Did everyone check out those resources, by the way? Did everybody check out? I have 3 resources down here. I have the slides, the period 4 in context slides. I have the live review worksheet, and I have a little formative assessment we're going to do at the end here. We're going to check to see if we learned anything here, okay, from that. You need to upgrade to get, oh, okay, so you can't click on those, huh? Okay, all right, so so under the resources, yeah, that might be a Fiveable Plus thing, but I will kind of show you, and we'll kind of go through some of the things live here as we're going through, okay? So let's go through here. How to get that contextualization point. Again, this is one of those ones in which people miss all the time. So how do we get that point? A lot of students struggle getting that point. Okay, contextualization refers to putting the entire essay, the DBQ or the LEQ, into a broader context. So you're going to be looking into the social, economic, political trends, events, themes. You're going to often summarize 50 to 100 years. Okay, I like the acronym here. You see this band down here, Guns N' Roses, very big as I was growing up here. Guns N' Roses, everybody hear of them at some time? Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child of Mine and things like that. Okay, Zoe, good. All right, I'm glad you have some different musical taste here. Okay, Jeremiah, more of a Cardi B fan. Okay, Cardi. All right, and I do have, for some reason, people know that I talk about Cardi B every once in a while. I'm not quite sure why. And but Cardi. And okay, all right. So bigger fan of Nicki Minaj than Cardi there, Zoe? All right. So Guns N' Roses. Okay, I'm glad to hear some people know what Guns N' Roses, what they were as a band. I have a sophomore daughter, and she pretty much thinks music started around 2013 or so, 12. And anything before that is a little bit early for her. But Guns N' Roses, GNR, I think it's a great way to remember. So global, national, regional, GNR, global, national, regional. So global, national, regional. So let's take a look here. So, for example, if it was an American Revolution video, if it was a, I'm sorry, question, then you would go global. So you would look at things like the Enlightenment, the rise of republicanism, the things from over in Europe and other places there. So you got this idea of a global influence. So you should be looking at things globally. You should be looking at things nationally. So if it was an American Revolution, you might look into the Albany Plan, the Stamp Act Congress. Why am I talking about those two? The Albany Plan, the Stamp Act Congress. Why am I looking into those? Okay, we want to make sure it's very interactive. Why am I talking about those? What do they bring here? They bring some what to the colonies? Right. They bring some unification. Okay, they're in any other unifying factors or characteristics that can help us. And then the R, regions. The United States is made up of regions. Are we still made up of regions? Okay, if we were going to talk about the the electoral map of 2016, could we see those regions still? If I say something from a particular state or region, can you kind of have an idea of what their political leanings are and things like that? Sure. Okay, still today, right? If we talked about a place like California, right? Where are their leanings there? More liberal or conservative? In general. Okay, right. All right, good. If we talked about a place like maybe Alabama or Georgia, more what? Liberal or conservative leaning? Okay, right. Okay, so we are still a place of regions, right? And regions, and there's some particular states that kind of lead things a little bit more. I was talking about this in class today. New England definitely dominated by Massachusetts. The South dominated by Virginia as the big power. So, you know, in terms of it, that is still the way things are. So you can look at things globally, nationally, regionally. It's more than just background. Okay, you have to look into the influences as trends. Where should it all be located? In that first paragraph is where it should be located here. So it should be located in that first paragraph. I tried to, let me get another example here. Can you see this if I bring this up here? Okay, let me go back here to where we were here and make sure that you can see it. Okay, I'm going to bring up a student sample. Okay, can you let me know if you see that when I went there? Did you see that? Probably not, because it's linked up with this right now. No. Okay. All right. Okay. So towards the end here, when we're doing a couple things, I'm going to try to show you a little bit of a student sample here as we go on. But really, I tell my students to pretty much have most of that first page of your essay being the contextualization point. Okay, so you're gonna be talking about global, you know, tells us to include context throughout the essay. I used it for which is better. All right, Amelia, I'm not gonna disagree with your APUSH teacher there, but I would do it in both. I would have a really strong everything that you know, I have seen, you know, really build up that context, bring us to that moment there, bring us to that. You are going to be setting the scene. You're going to explain the significance. You're going to explain why it happened, why it's important, what led it. So I would definitely take your teacher's advice and then to weave it within the essay. But I would also say that I would do my best to try to get it, you know, I would try to do my best to get it in that first paragraph and then kind of revisit it as well. Okay. And so I'm going to try to show you a little student example later on. So is everybody with me so far in terms of contextualization? The difference there between contextualization and historical context is contextualization. We're talking about the essays, talk about DBQ, talk about LEQ, whereas historical context, we're normally talking about a document or a question or something like that. Can you give me a thumbs up if you are understanding that difference here? Okay. All right. Yep. Okay. All right. Very good. All right. So, and back to Amelia's point there about what your APUSH teacher is telling you, you want to make sure that you do make the changes that your teacher wants. But I would also suggest taking a look at some of the 5 essays yourself there. All right. So we're going to be starting here. We're going to take a look at about 50 years back, because that's where we always start when we're talking about, okay, when we're talking about this. So we're going to play a little music here as we're going through here too. Okay, money, money, money. Okay, so why am I talking about money when it comes to period 3? Because what happens with the French and Indian War? Debt. Okay, horrible debt. Very nice. Okay, horrible debt there for Britain. And because of that, Britain wanted, because of this massive debt, they wanted to start taxing the colonists, right? And the colonists feel it's unfair that, you know, you're taxing us at these high rates. They start organizing against it there. You have the Stamp Act Congress. You have the Sons and Daughters of Liberty. Okay, so because of that, that is all part of this organization, and you can kind of see the American Revolution coming. The American Revolution led to independence under the Articles of Confederation there. Okay, unfortunately, they were seen to be weak after a while. They couldn't deal with things like Shays' Rebellion. Does everybody know about Shays' Rebellion? Okay, Shays' Rebellion. Anybody want to tell me what Shays' Rebellion is out there? Okay. Yep, it showed the weakness of the government. Yep. Shays' Rebellion, Daniel Shay fought for the American Revolution, and while he was gone, he was one of the people very affected by the economic downturn and was foreclosed upon. So there were a whole bunch of farmers who were very angry about fighting for the country and being foreclosed, that their homes were foreclosed. Government could not tax. Very good. The Articles of Confederation were very weak. Hard to raise money there. Okay, excellent. And then we have the Anti-Federalist versus Federalist battle for the Constitution there. And in some ways, the beginning of two-party politics there does kind of start. George Washington kept America out of conflicts there. I put in gravitas, that gravity that George Washington had. He was our first president. I guess you could probably argue that he was one of our, truly somebody who was bipartisan and did reach across the aisle. In his cabinet, he had both Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton. Do they like each other much? No, exactly. Okay, and had them both in his cabinet. So taking a look at that here. John Adams, when he was in there, so you need to talk about the Alien and Sedition Acts and how those angered a lot of people. His midnight judges, where he packed in a lot of Federalists into the court system there. And so that's where we are when period 4 starts. So what do we always want to do? We always want to go back 50, 100 years in contextualization and really set the stage for where we are. Is it simply just background information? No. You have to make these links inside of it. You have to link that to your thesis, and that makes it a lot stronger. Okay. How are we doing so far? Is everybody all right so far? All right. So we're writing an essay, right? Your teacher gives you an essay on a period 3, 4, whatever essay. And you're going through it here. I suggest really making that first paragraph strong. Okay. And what I mean by that is, going through, getting all this. You want to get the context in there. You want to blend it. You want to explain what's going on, all the things. You want to make sure that that reader really knows what is going on and the stage we are at. Very good. So you're setting a stage. And I tell my students to do it almost the whole first page and then kind of end the first page a lot of times with the thesis. Now, in terms of what I saw in terms of results going through it there, in that from last year, the people who did the first one here, we really knocked it out of park when it came to contextualization. And so they were listening. They got a lot of context in there, and it helped a lot. Okay. Let's take a look here. All right. So you saw that I did give you a little worksheet here too. Everybody may not be able to open it, but in that worksheet here, what we gave there is we gave some terms and some different things here. So I kind of highlighted some of the terms that I think are really important and things that we can go through for period 4 here. So now we're on period 4 here. So age of Jefferson here. Thomas Jefferson wins the 1800 election there. Aaron Burr has the same amount of votes there, so Hamilton, who's is not a fan of Jefferson, actually backs Jefferson. And what's so important about this is, do you see where it says peaceful transition of power? It's a big test here for the country. It's the first time we have changed political parties. Now, who has warned about political parties after his 8 years? In his farewell address there, very good. George Washington said, political parties and permanent alliances are going to be big problems for this country, right? So that's kind of interesting there. We can take a look at where we are, politically today as well. And so there's a lot of issues there. All right, so the Democratic Republicans, also known as the Jeffersonian Republicans, believed in small government, more power to the states. Courts were controlled by Federalists like John Marshall. What do Federalists believe in? Having a strong what? Federalists. What do you think? Right, strong central government. Thank you. All right, good. All right, so a strong central government. Right, so a little bit different there. The courts are going to feel very different here. In Marbury versus Madison, there are some court cases you just need to know. One of them is Marbury versus Madison. What it sets up is judicial review, is the idea that the power of the courts to decide constitutionality. So power of the courts there, judicial review. Okay, very important term. If you have the worksheet there, you can definitely fill that out there. So judicial review is one of the terms. I'm going to go over all these terms here again, make sure we get all these things. All right, Louisiana. Okay, before we get to Louisiana Purchase, Jefferson tried to reduce government spending and national debt. One place where he didn't reduce the spending was the Louisiana Purchase there. Okay, but it was a good deal. What do you think Jefferson didn't like about the Louisiana Purchase there? So he buys it. It's 3 cents an acre, 50 million in total. Okay, a great deal by Napoleon. Napoleon's desperate, needs some cash to fight his wars. He's desperate. Jefferson takes advantage of this desperation and doubles the size of the U.S. Now, why would Jefferson maybe feel weird about it? Very good. Expand central government. Excellent. So he is not going to feel, it's not going to feel real good about that, right? Because that is not what he was going for, right? So he wants a small central government, right? But he knows it's such a good deal that he can't stop from doing it there. So he realized it's a great deal. Now, another thing that happens during Jefferson's presidency is the hated Embargo Act there. And, I kind of consider this, I'm going to, when somebody's upset, I'm going to take my ball and go home kind of thing. What he says is we're not going to trade in any foreign ports, right? So who is going to be most affected by that? Is that going to be more of the South where he's from or more of the North that's going to be affected from that? Okay, excellent. All right, excellent. The North, very good. Nice job. All right, so that is the age of Jefferson. How are you doing with the age of Jefferson? So, depending upon, I'm trying to think of potential DBQ or LEQ questions that involve Jefferson. You may get something along the lines of, was this really a revolution? Defend it, something like that. Something along those lines where you have to, you have to defend whether that is really a revolution. That's what Jefferson and his supporters called it there, and a very different way of thinking about government. Okay, but there was also practicality. All right, War of 1812 here. Everybody with me here? War of 1812. How many people? Well, first of all, let me know if you've gotten here yet. So say yes or no if you've gotten here to the War of 1812. Okay. All right. All right. So some have gotten there, some haven't. Okay. Excellent. All right. So let's go over here. We have Britain versus the U.S. there. Some people called it the Second War for Independence. Such a strange war. So many weird details. What did it involve? Trade issues. It involved impressment of U.S. sailors. It involved British support of the Indian attack. So 3 big things there on the frontier. And we have little change in land there, cleared out the Midwest there. Native Americans, after, had very little support. Tecumseh is going to become one of the names you need to know during this here. William Henry Harrison, people like that. What the biggest thing about the War of 1812 is that there's a new spirit of nationalism that takes off. You can see that through Francis Scott Key. What did he have? What did he write? Right, the Star-Spangled Banner, right? And so therefore you can kind of see that he's bringing these nationalistic feelings here. After the war and for a while there, it's going to be the era of good feelings. What happens is the Federalists are going to be seen as traitors in this particular war here. We have the Missouri Compromise, which is going to, later on in 1820, going to push the American Civil War back a little bit. And you're going to also need to know the Monroe Doctrine, which warns Europe to keep out of American affairs. So everywhere where I highlighted, those were some terms there. So you have Tecumseh, a Shawnee chief there. Battle of Tippecanoe, he actually didn't fight in it, but his brother, the Prophet, did. And it really did a lot of damage to the coalition he was putting together. Manifest Destiny is the idea from sea to shining sea. We have the era of good feelings there, which is one party is left there. Later on, well, I don't want to confuse you here, but the era of good feelings is what it wasn't completely unified at all times. And then we have the Missouri Compromise, which kind of pushed the, what's going to happen, push the Civil War back about 40 years here. And we have the Monroe Doctrine, which warns Europe to keep out of American affairs. Are we going to be in a lot of Latin American affairs over the time based on the Monroe Doctrine? We're basically saying this side of the, this hemisphere here, the Western Hemisphere there, well, most of the Western Hemisphere, right, that we have here the Americas, and to kind of stay for Europe to stay on their side. Okay, telling Europe to stay in their lane. All right, let's take a look here. So the age of Jackson. Okay, is Jackson one of the most controversial presidents? Definitely even talk of removing him, right, from our money system there. There was talk about switching it up there with Harriet Tubman on one side and Andrew Jackson. But as of right now, I don't think anything's really happened with that lately. All right, so we have the 7th president of the United States. He kind of used a common man persona was his thing. Some people connected with him from his humble beginnings. How humble those beginnings were is sometimes argued a little bit there, even during the campaign, some nasty campaigning there. And basically, some people suggesting there that, yes, murdered natives, definitely. We're going to go to that in 1 second here. His humble beginnings there, tied with some people even saying that his mother was a prostitute and things like that. So, therefore, no matter what, his beginnings were pretty humble there, so a lot of people could see success in him. Now let's go to the murdering of the natives. Dominique, you are correct there. So he made his name, a lot of his name, with wars against the Native Americans, like the Seminole Wars here. Okay, and some pretty horrible acts, and we're going to come back to his record on Native Americans and his record on slavery Neither one was very good here. So originally he won the popular vote in 1824. He does not get in. It's split so many different ways. Henry Clay was in there, John Quincy Adams. And what happens is that nobody gets the majority of the electoral votes, right? So what happens is that nobody winds up getting the majority there of the electoral votes. And so therefore it goes, anybody knows where it goes when it can't get, when nobody gets the majority of the votes there? It's important to know there. All right, nice job there. The House of Representatives, good. So it goes to the House of Representatives there, excellent. Okay, and they decide with the support of Henry Clay, they pick John Quincy Adams. So what do Jackson and his supporters say? It's a corrupt bargain. Okay, and it's a corrupt bargain. The election of 1828 starts immediately there. The campaign, I should say, starts immediately, and Jackson wins in a landslide in 1828. Now, one of the things he does during his presidency is the Indian Removal Act. So again, back to pretty harsh treatment there. The Native Americans die as they do a trek across the southern portion of America, and about 4,000 Native Americans die. There is also his bank war there during his time. That's what that earlier cartoon was talking about. A whole new party emerges. That whole one-party system is all gone now. And the Whig Party emerges to fight what they think is King Jackson. Very good. All right. So now let's take a look at a couple of things here now. So, you know what? Let's go. All right, let's go with this one first here, the reform movements here. Okay, there are a lot of reform movements in the early to mid 1800s here, and these reform movements are going to be extremely important here because a lot of these reform movements are going to kind of push us towards the Civil War. So let's take a look here. Women's rights movements. We always want to be, you want to take a look at anytime it comes to women's rights, or when we want to talk about any ethnic issues, any racial issues, we want to keep in mind what each particular, where we are in all these things. So let's take a look at women's rights here. So some of the people like Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Susan B. Anthony, those were some of the people there. Women lacked rights, horrible abuses towards women a lot of times. Women didn't have suffrage until the 1920 presidential election. Lack of education. Cult of domesticity. That's another one of our vocab words here. What that basically means is that really a woman's place was in the home and raising the kids. And, that definitely cut back on progress for women, and this idea that women had those duties and that's what they should be doing. So when they're fighting for suffrage or things like that, people are making a connection at that time that were against it, saying, what's going to happen to the family and all those things. Dominique, very good there when you're talking about Republican motherhood. Excellent. That is, the idea that women should be educating their children there as part of the Republic. Good. All right. Abolitionist. That's another big one here. People like Frederick Douglass, Sojourner Truth, William Lloyd Garrison, Harriet Tubman, whole bunch of different ones here. The issue is that slavery is morally wrong and that it should be ended. Many of them are calling for abolition immediately. And that struggle will eventually be one of the leading factors to the Civil War. This is a religious revival here. So anybody remember what group from Pennsylvania is going to be very important to the to the abolition movement, I should say? Very good. Quakers. Nice. Good job. Right away. All right. Health. let's take a look at health. Horrible abuse of prisoners, of the mentally, of those, in terms of facing various, in various institutions, those who are institutionalized in asylums and all those things there, that they are being treated horribly. I mean, we know in this country, right? Does everybody know later on there were even, things done like lobotomies? Does everybody know what a lobotomy is? Okay, frontal lobe. Okay, this is your personality in here. Okay, don't hurt this here. And a lot of times when people, okay, all right, you don't know about that? It's okay. All right, so lobotomies is something that was practiced in the 1800s. They would 1800s. They would actually cut open your skull, and if they thought that a person was quote unquote insane, they would sometimes remove part of their frontal lobe. And so that's the concept of a lobotomy. And then they'd be like, that person's fixed. That person might not really have much of a personality at all, depending upon what's going on there with that frontal lobe. So that's where your personality is. That's where you are there. Yeah, that is horrible. That is absolutely horrible. And so really bad treatment, people chained up, tied up, beaten, and a lot of times these people were just, suffering from a form of mental illness, So Dorothea Dix, I believe she first went to England and saw this, and then, tried to bring out reforms here. Education, Horace Mann. He was concerned with, he thought that we needed intelligent voters to support democracy. He wanted improved education and standards and all of those things as very important things, for everyone there. So that's what he was kind of focusing on. All right. Let's get to our last slide here. This is something that is near and dear to me. The commercial revolution / market revolution. A few years back, the main DBQ question, and I'll never forget this, was all on the market revolution, or maybe it worded it the commercial revolution. I'm not sure what it worded it as. I'd have to go back and look. But the main thing is, we did in my class, we did like a 2.5 week project on this. Did a Shark Tank. Everybody watch Shark Tank sometimes, and they researched everything, all the inventions, everything. They knew everything about it. It should have been an awesome DBQ, but I think they called it commercial revolution and we called it market when we were learning about it, and they had no idea what it was talking about. So they really they knew everything about it. So what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is to make sure you know both names of things. Okay, and there's often two different names, right? So just kind of pay attention to that as you go along. That was that did suck. Yes, they would come in and they're like, how come you never talked about the commercial revolution? And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, we spent weeks on it. And I'm like, you had this project, and I'm showing them projects around the room, and they're like, no. So it is what it is. So just make sure you yep. I kind of felt like crying too. But so you have to make sure, not as bad as the year that the whole DBQ was on the Grange movement. Okay, we'll talk about that some other time. But that was horrible. But so some of them figured it out, some of them didn't. So did anybody take human geography last year? AP Human Geography? Okay, last year's test, the reason I know this is my daughter took it last year. The main essay, I never taught the class, so I don't want to pretend like I know all the elements of the test, but I believe the main writing was on a thing called devolution, and not even in their book. Uh, my daughter was able to kind of maneuver her way through it there. It's basically decentralizing of a government. And but kind of ridiculous that something not even in the book. But I did read that like 1/3 of students got a 1 or something. So it was really quite rough. If you can kind of figure it out, some people did okay. All right. Let's just take a quick look. Commercial revolution, market revolution, period, first half of the 19th century. More industrialization led to more wealth in northern cities. A whole bunch of new inventions. People like Eli Whitney with his cotton gin, John Deere with some of his tractors. And so we have a lot of things going on. We also have kind of a pro-business government kind of under Henry Clay. You had nationalistic system. You had high protective tariffs. You had the Bank of the United States. You had, yeah, a lot of people, Dominique, would say that this is really where capitalism takes off. Some of the gap between rich and poor and things like that really also do take off during that time, which is often a criticism of capitalism. You have canals, railroads, you have subsidies, you have some land grants and things like that, all about uniting the country. Okay. All right, good. Now, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to do the quick little formative assessment really quick here. And let me see if I can get this up here real quick. And I want to just see how you do on a few quick questions. Does that sound okay to you? Okay, hopefully it does. Hopefully you're seeing me here right now. And I'm going to get this to you because I know that, you know, if you don't have the plus there, you probably can't open this, but I do want you to do this because this is just kind of seeing where you are. Can you open that for me here? Just 4 little questions here. You want to click on that for me? Can you click? Can you click? Can you click? All right. Did it open for you? Okay. All right. Great. Can you just open it for me and just take this 4 little quiz here, and we're gonna, you know, we're gonna kind of talk about the results there. Okay. If you can just give it a quick little try, just a little way to review what we learned about. Okay. All right. We're going to go over the answers there. Pineapple 03. Okay. We're going to go over it. Okay. All right, done. Okay, let's just, I'm just going to talk about it real quick here. When considering the big picture, I know you can't see it here. So I got some of these here. Thank you. When considering the big picture, which one was not mentioned? Okay, and definition of terms there. So do you sometimes need to explain something? Of course, but that was not one of the things. We talked GNR, right? Guns N' Roses, right? Guns N' Roses. What president made the Louisiana Purchase? Jefferson, right? Did he feel great about it? Probably not, right? And then which document justified the U.S. role in Latin America? Anytime we became involved here, we could always point to the Monroe Doctrine. Very good. And an idea that suffragists and other women's rights activists were fighting against there is that idea of the cult of domesticity. All right. Excellent. So, hey, I appreciate it here. I hope you learned a lot. Did you learn a lot? I hope you're. Oh, thank you, and hopefully, I hope that that you did learn a lot here. Hello, how you doing, Aisha? And so hopefully you learned a lot, and that you're feeling more comfortable going into period 4. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you had some good things there, and that you took away some things. And if you have Fiveable Plus, I think you get the slides, the review worksheet there. You can fill that out. Don't forget to follow me on @DiFilippo APUSH. Please make sure you get out the words to your friends and other APUSH students there. If you can follow me there @DiFilippo APUSH there on Twitter, and then just retweet some of the things for me. I'd really appreciate that. And we're here to help you, and that's really the goal of Fiveable. And we want to make sure that it's a powerful experience for everybody. All right. Thank you so much. You were great. Lots of fun today. I really appreciate all the help and the interaction. And you have a great night. Okay. Enjoy your Tuesday night. Okay. All right. Anybody big plans? Okay. Tuesdays are kind of a slow night there. All right. Good night. All right. Bye-bye. Thanks. Oh, PSAT tomorrow. Yes. Good luck for the juniors taking that there. That is the one that's tied with scholarships and things, right? Oh, okay. I should have said that. Hey, real quick there. This has nothing to do with that, but we had this the other day. I was looking for the pamphlet here, but we had this training the other day. I really liked it for the reading. What they suggested is like a little hashtag for each paragraph. Like you hashtag the paragraph, then you come back, and what you've done is you've done a quick little summary. It's not about underlining everything and things like that. So you may want to give that a little try there, because if you can hashtag each little paragraph real quick, and then you probably will have a pretty good idea where to go back. Hope somebody got 4 wrong. Good. All right. So you liked it. Okay, good. All right. Love seeing that. All right. Good luck, and everybody have a good night. I'm going to end the broadcast. Good luck there on the PSAT tomorrow. All right. Bye-bye.